Hello, this is a video comparing two different types of contrabass clarinets that you can purchase. Over on my left side, there is the Vito contrabass clarinet that is resin bodied and goes down to low E flat. And over here is another model that you can potentially find used as a Leblanc low C paperclip contrabass clarinet. I am very fortunate to be borrowing the Leblanc contrabass clarinet, and my Vito is my personal instrument that I also bought used for a very good price. So here's a comparison video of the two. I wanted to add that I am using a just standard Leblanc Vito mouthpiece and a Fibercell strength 2 synthetic reed for the setup. So I'm going to be playing a chromatic scale on both instruments, and then you're gonna hear some arpeggios going across the break. So I'll let you decide which of the two that you prefer. So here's a comparison of the two cases for the Vito contrabass clarinet and this Leblanc paperclip low C contrabass clarinet. The Vito cannot easily come apart except if maybe you're taking it to a repair technician in the middle. So this case is ridiculously long, and if you're taking it to gigs, it's very difficult if you don't have a big enough vehicle, or if you have a long distance, you're going to likely need a cart. The other case here is still quite large, but likely it will fit in a car. So the paperclip wins on that, on trying to carry something, but it's still quite heavy for both of them to carry. And, you know, make sure you've got the space in your vehicle and if you need a cart. Another comparison is that for the Vito contrabass clarinet, you're likely going to need to be sitting in a stool for performing. If you're short enough, you might actually be able just to stand and play the Vito contrabass clarinet, but for my height, I'm still too tall to reach the mouthpiece standing up. So I have to bring a stool to gigs everywhere that I would need to play this Vito contrabass clarinet. With the paperclip, you are lucky, as in you just can sit in a regular chair and you do not have to carry a stool. So that's another pro for the Leblanc paperclips. So I think the biggest pro with this instrument in the tone is when you're in the really low deep register of the instrument, the low notes are actually going up into the band rather than down at the floor with the straight models of the Vito, and even probably the metal Leblancs that are just straight up and down. But this instrument, you can, your sound projects going upwards, so that's a great thing. A con of this instrument that I am not used to really is the ergonomics of it feeling quite top heavy. So when I'm playing throat tones, it's hard for me to kind of get a good, still great grip on this instrument to play some of these throat tones. I like to try to get as much of a nice clarinet angle as I can. So I feel like the instrument's very top heavy. So sometimes if I'm getting really tired after a while, I'll try to make it to where it's a little bit not as going upwards like a clarinet angle. So it's not as hard to play those throat tones. So that is one of the cons of the instrument, but generally I feel like it really sings in the upper register, very vibrant sound. And in the low register, I can get a really big, beefy sound. So one of the first big pros of having a Vito contrabass or the rebranded Leblanc straight up and down resin body contrabass clarinet is the price. I got this used for $1,800, but right now new they're going for about $6,300, I believe. If you're trying to find a paperclip contrabass clarinet, they can cost you used from $4,000 all the way up to $8,000, depending if it's a low D model or a low C model. So one con of this instrument, it goes down to only low E flat. The paperclip has extended range down to low C. So if that's something you're missing out on and you really want that low register, this instrument can't provide that. One of the pros, I think, of this instrument compared to the Leblanc paperclip for ergonomics, it's sitting on the ground, so I'm not having to worry about the weight of the instrument as much. The Leblanc feels very top heavy, the paperclip, so it's a little bit easier to play throat tones on this instrument. One of the big things I've noticed that is a con for me is the grip to reach some of the pinky keys down here. The bore, or just the size of the bore, looks quite larger than the Leblanc, maybe just on the outside. I don't know if it's completely different on the inside or not, but to reach some of these pinky keys, especially this A flat key, for me is quite difficult. I have on the smaller side of hands. Another thing I've noticed, this specific instrument plays a little bit flat compared to the other Leblanc. Both of them, I still think it might be my reed setup and mouthpiece setup, but they both tend to play on the flat side. But I've noticed on the low register of this one especially, it's a little bit more flat. And for the cost of this instrument, really it's a great buy. The low register on this is still really full, and the upper register still plays really nicely. I do think that the Leblanc plays a little bit more of like a singing-like quality up in the upper register and gets this really beefy sound. Another con of this instrument is, you know, the bell's all the way down to the floor. So the low register notes are going to be kind of towards the floor. So it's going to be kind of buried within the band. So that is a con that you might have a hard time projecting on this instrument. I feel like with the Leblanc, I was easily able to project and be heard a little bit better over this model. I feel like I have to really force lots of air, big sound to get this instrument to project.